They say some stories stay quiet for years, buried under routine and distance, until something small brings them back, like the sound of wings against glass or a door that should never open. This is one of those stories. It begins long before the narrator was born, back when their mother was still young, living in a modest neighborhood where heat pressed down like a living thing and afternoons stretched endlessly. There was a woman named Tanya, a close friend of the narrator's mother. People remembered her for her laugh first, bright, unguarded, and then for her hair, long and black, flowing down her back like a curtain. She lived near a massive, ancient tree that towered over the houses around it. Crows nested there by the dozens. Their calls were so constant that most people stopped noticing them. Tanya noticed. Every afternoon, when the sun was at its cruelest, she sat by her open window to eat. The breeze would carry the smell of food, the rustle of leaves, and the distant cawing from the tree. One day, as she lifted a spoon to her mouth, a single crow landed on the windowsill. It didn't hop, it didn't peck, it just stared at her. Its black eyes reflected her face so clearly it made her uncomfortable. Tanya laughed it off. She assumed it was hungry. She tossed it a small piece of food. The crow took it, slowly, deliberately, never breaking eye contact. The next day, it came back, then the next. Feeding the crow became part of her routine. Sometimes there were two, sometimes three, always silent, always watching. Neighbors joked about it. They said she'd made friends with the birds. Tanya laughed with them. She didn't notice how thin she was becoming or how tired her eyes looked. One evening, everything shifted. The heat that night was unbearable. Tanya had just finished showering and didn't bother drying her hair. It clung wetly to her back as she moved through the house. There were only 4 people inside: Tanya, her cousin, her brother, and his friend. Her parents were out of town for surgery. They sat down to eat dinner together. Tanya kept eating and eating. Her plate was refilled once, twice, 3 times. When the food was gone, she complained she was still starving. Her cousin joked, "You're eating like you haven't eaten in days." Tanya didn't laugh. That night, she barely slept. By morning, she was burning with fever. Her skin was hot to the touch, her breathing shallow. She was bedridden for days. When the fever finally broke, everyone thought the worst was over. They were wrong. Her appetite became unnatural. She consumed enough food for several people and still demanded more. At night, strange sounds echoed through the house, the refrigerator opening and slamming shut, glass bottles shattering, chairs scraping across the floor, knocks on walls that no one could explain. They would find her standing in the kitchen at dawn, eyes unfocused, hands sticky with food she didn't remember eating. Doctors were called. They said it was stress, sleepwalking, a fever-induced episode, but the family knew something else was moving her body. One afternoon, the narrator's mother went to visit. What she walked into never left her. 7 or 8 people were crowded inside Tanya's bedroom, struggling to restrain her. Tanya thrashed violently, her strength completely inhuman. It took all of them just to keep her from hurting herself or them. Her mouth twisted into shapes that didn't look like expressions a human face should make. That was the last time the narrator's mother tried to help directly. Soon after, the family took Tanya to a priest. The priest placed his hands on Tanya's shoulders and began to pray. At first, nothing happened. Then her body went rigid. A sound rose from her throat, not her voice, but something deeper, layered, wrong. The priest stopped praying. "How many of you are inside her?" he asked. The voice laughed. "7, it said. There are 7 of us." The priest's face drained of color. "Why did you enter her?" he asked.
"We fed her," the voice replied calmly. "She cared for us. We're taking her to the underworld." That was when the truth surfaced. The crows weren't animals, they were spirits. And when Tanya laughed, when her wet hair hung loose down her back, when her guard was down, that's when they entered. The spirits warned the priest that Tanya would never marry, never have children, and if she tried, tragedy would follow. The priest didn't accept that. He prayed with a force that shook the room. One by one, the voices screamed and fell silent. When it was over, Tanya collapsed. Before she left, the priest gave her a protective object and warned her never to remove it. Years passed. Tanya married. In 2014, she became pregnant. She lost the baby. In 2018, it happened again. In 2022, again. 3 miscarriages, each one devastating. Eventually, they stopped trying and adopted a child. Outwardly, life moved on, but those close to Tanya say the house is never truly quiet. They say crows still gather nearby, and spirits never forget kindness. The narrator heard this story as a child, long before they understood what it meant, but the feeling it left never faded. Years later, another memory surfaced, one that didn't belong to their mother, but to them. They were in kindergarten. The school was a 2-story building, old and poorly maintained. One afternoon during recess, boredom set in. The children decided to play hide and seek. For the final round, someone suggested hiding upstairs on the left side of the building. Everyone hesitated. They said it was creepy. Everyone except one child. That child went up alone. The stairs creaked with each step. At the top, there was only one door. As the seeker began to count, 10, 9, 8, the door opened. Inside was a dusty room, untouched for years. Chairs were upturned, cobwebs clung to the corners. The air smelled wrong, sweet and rotten at the same time. Red splatters stained the walls, dripping downward. A blackboard at the front bore smeared handprints. The child thought it was old paint. They hid near the door and waited. Minutes passed. Then came the sound from the closet. A thump, a shift, a rustle. Fear took over. The child ran. Later, back in class, a friend asked where they'd been hiding. When told where, the friend stared in disbelief. That room's been locked for years. The key was lost. No one's ever opened it. The child didn't sleep well after that. Years later, another story entered the narrator's life. A teenager named Jess moved with her family to a remote island in the Philippines, a place known for witches and strange happenings. One night, she saw a neighbor's dog sitting motionless in the road, staring into darkness. Nights later, she heard screams, pleas for help, while motion sensor lights flickered on with no one there. Only she and her dog reacted. By morning, news came. A relative had died that same night. And then there was the house in India, a small home with a veranda, a housekeeper who drew strange figures representing the family. After the drawing was washed away, accidents and illnesses followed. Even after the housekeeper was fired, her presence lingered. A woman with the same hair was seen peeking from the hallway late at night. They moved out. Life improved, but questions remained. Across countries, across years, across lives, the patterns were the same. Kindness mistaken for invitation, doors opening where none should, voices heard by only one person. Some things watch patiently, some things wait to be fed, and once you acknowledge them, once you open the window, once you turn the knob, they never truly leave. They just wait for the next chance.